Hello friends, Lee here from TableTop Bong. Thanks for joining me. I apologize if my camera is shaky at all. I'm using a selfie stick and I don't normally record this way. Gonna do my best with this, alright? So please bear with me. So first, before I even get going, I just want to put a trigger warning out there, okay? So if you're somebody who is going to be triggered or feels like you might become triggered by conversations of traumatic situations, please understand that this will be a good time to click off of this video. I don't really plan on pulling any punches. I plan on speaking quite openly and honestly, because really that's the only way I can make sense of things and make them, valuable, I suppose, to the viewer, you. So today I'm coming to you from Chiefswood Park, along the shores of beautiful Grand River. And Chiefswood Park is located on the Six Nations Indian Reserve in Ontario, Canada. So it's an absolutely gorgeous park. I used to come here an awful lot as a kid. I was a lacrosse player growing up, and of course we all know that lacrosse is a native sport, and of course we spent a lot of time, being that my hometown is right outside of the Six Nations Indian Reserve, we spent a lot of time playing against the natives and spending time on the reserve, which was absolutely wonderful, to be completely honest. It's an experience of life that I'm so grateful, so very grateful that I had that experience. So of course, I feel very comfortable being here in this particular setting, and I wanted to come back here because it's been, a good 40 years or so since I've been here. When I was here the last time, as a matter of fact, there used to be a ferry that would cross the river here, and that the ferry at the time took a dump truck on it, and it actually flipped. I was out in the river in a kayak. I was, I don't know, maybe 10 or 11 years old, and I was goofing around in a kayak, and it flipped over. It was a really, really scary situation. Luckily, the person who was driving the dump truck and the operator of the ferry both got out safely. So that's just a side note of history here. If you're from the area, you might understand that. So, okay, let me tell you what's been going on. So I left yesterday, and the goal was to stop different places to rekindle memories, right? To activate an energy within me that I'm having a struggle with letting go of without taking an advanced step, if you will, really into sort of trying to face these things down, stare right into the eye of the beast, if you will. So in order to do that, what I thought I would do would be to get in my car and I would just drive to the physical locations and I would sit in the energy. And, sitting in that energy and letting it reactivate in my body, what the goal was simply to find a way now with this adult mind that I have to honor the situations or the times or to understand or to do anything different than I did when I was a smaller child. Well, it was a really interesting day yesterday, and as you can tell, this is the beginning of my video footage, so there wasn't really much to shoot yesterday, but some very, very interesting things happened that I really think, honestly, are going to be some of the very most important things that I could talk to you about in this video at all. Okay, so here's what happened, guys. So the very first place I wanted to go was a park in... my grandparents had a home in a small town, like maybe 500 people or something like that, like very small when I was a small child. And down the road from them was a park. And I would go and I would sit in that park and I would fly a kite and I would fly it for hours and hours and hours. And I would daydream, what's the future going to be like? Right? What's it going to be like to become a man? Am I going to be like my dad? Am I going to be like my grandpa? All that kind of stuff that we wonder about as a boy. My dad and my grandfather are certainly what you would call men's men. Very abrupt, if you will. If they believed something, you would know it. If there was something physical to handle, they would handle it. Right? So that was, the kind of guys that my grandfather and my dad were in my childhood. I had no idea then as I was developing, if that was going to have any effect on me, the fact that they were maybe very macho. Let's say that. Let's use that term. Very, very macho. And not afraid to be macho, right? And okay, cool. It was, the 70s. I guess that's what 70s dudes were, was macho. So when I got to the park, gone. It was completely gone. Like the land was still there, but they have done all kinds of different things with it. It was unrecognizable. So I thought, that one got me a little bit, because I would recall sitting in that park, and I could put myself back in that time, sitting there and daydreaming and wondering and thinking. And let's face it, when you're growing up with some macho men around you, some shit happens that you need to what's the word? Decompress, let's say. Even as a child, you need to decompress, right? So that's where I would try and do that, and it was gone. It was long gone. So I decided, all right, I'm going to drive down the road to where my grandparents' house was, and my grandparents' house was, it was a larger size home, and it sat on the lot very majestically, if you will. At least that's how it seemed to me as a smaller child, right? And I pulled up to the property, and it seemed as though, the house was still there. It was still there. Everything was still as I recall. But the house wasn't majestic anymore. It was almost invisible on the lot to my eyes. It was a really, really bizarre thing that happened. Like, I had a really hard time actually seeing the house. And I know it was a combination of things. I know, one, it was the fact that my unconscious was working with me to sort of protect me a little bit, as the unconscious is supposed to do. And my memory just wasn't that good of it, I guess, right? But what was funny, there was a lot of power, and there was a few things. I'm not going to go into the details of it in that home, though. They got me. They got me good, and I would decompress from that down at the park. And I couldn't see that house anymore, and I couldn't really feel the feeling anymore. And something started to emerge in my mind. I thought, that's a funny thing. It looks like the past is gone. The only one holding it now, the only one with any energy for it, maybe it's me. Right? My grandfather's passed now. My grandmother is passed now. So I thought, you know what? I'm the only one holding that. If I'm in this physical space, it's not even there anymore. Memory's gone. Imprint's gone. Funnily enough, I could just kind of start to let it go. It was an interesting thing, and it surprised me a little bit. I'm going to be honest, it surprised me quite a bit. Sorry if I'm not doing an awesome job with this camera. I'm doing my very best. Okay, so then I decided to whip into my hometown, right, and go back to the scene of some pretty shitty stuff. I can't really say it any other way. I mean, there was some pretty shitty stuff. So as I pulled into my hometown, haven't been there in a long time. My parents don't live there anymore. My siblings have kind of moved on as well. My one brother is still sort of around there, but he's in and out of the town. He's not connected to it anymore. So I'm in my hometown, and all of a sudden I'm not recognizing anything. I had to use my GPS to navigate, which was super interesting. You think you would know all the streets like the back of your hand, but the streets have all changed. Even the street names of many of them have changed, but what's on even the way that the town was laid out was a little bit differently done. So it really began to throw me off a little bit. So, okay, this is where I'm going to give you the trigger warning, guys, okay? Again, if you're likely to be triggered by traumatic stuff, click off now. Okay, so I'm going to get really, really personal with you guys, okay? This is not something that I'm, often sitting at the dinner table and broadcasting, but I figure, you know what, I'm going to just be as raw and honest and let you guys in, right? If I'm not vulnerable with you, then you know what, maybe I'm not healing at all. So that's how I've kind of looked at this. So there was, I had a basketball coach, right? Same old story. We've all heard it, right? So this basketball coach, he took me to a school by myself to prepare me because I was the captain of our basketball team, and he was giving me one-on-one coaching. So he took me to a school inside the town where I had grown up, and we started with some basketball, and that's not where we finished, obviously, right? I was a pretty young kid, right? I was like 12 years old, and that was not a real good thing to try and move on from, right? And to realize that, growing up with macho men, you talk about that stuff, somebody's life is going to change beyond what's already happened. Do I know what the reaction would have been from my father or my grandfather had I have disclosed what had happened? Absolutely not. Do I have a pretty good idea of what would have happened? Yeah, I have a pretty good idea, and I think that would have changed the course of everyone in my family's life. So I did what most people in the 70s or 80s did when this happened, and I shut up. I ate it, I swallowed it, I buried it, and I carried it. And I carried it, and I carried it. Let's face it, that's not an easy one to pass up, right? So I've done a lot of work on that, and I've done a lot of work surrounding my emotions and my own personal energy on that particular topic. But I still felt like there was maybe something left. So I wanted to go back to that school. And here's the funniest thing that happened, and this I found to be absolutely remarkable, guys, and I really have to share this with you. So what happened next is, in my memory, I could not come up with where that school was. I mean, and let's think about this for a minute. This is burned in my mind, okay? This was scorched in my mind, in my youth. And now, I can't remember where the school is. So I think, okay, it's been a long time. Maybe I just can't remember the street. So then I try to come up with the name of the school. Couldn't do it. Could not do it. For the life of me. Could not figure out the name of the school. Could not figure out where it was. And I thought, wow, isn't that interesting? And I had a really tough time with that. I'm not going to lie to you guys. I had a really tough time accepting that because I felt almost rejected in the moment. And then I decided, okay, I'm going to suck it up here for a minute. I'm just going to put that one on the back burner, and I'm going to give myself a chance to think about that and sit with it before I react too much to it. So I decided what I would do next is I would go to some other places where some other big shit had happened. They're all gone. There's nothing left. Nothing looked the same. Nothing felt the same. It was all gone. Super interesting, right? The only thing that was recognizable was my childhood home. That was recognizable. But even the entire city block, every last thing had changed. It was like that house was about the only thing that was the same. Everything else had changed. So when I would go to these places to try and sit in the energy, none of it was there. It was already long gone. And I started to see a theme. Sometimes, you know what? This is a lyric from a Jason Aldean song. Time only moves one way, and it's away from yesterday. When I heard that lyric, I thought that was brilliant. You know what? I actually understand it now. I truly understand it now. Time has moved away from yesterday. It's moved away from the pain. And it's like nature has reclaimed all of it and put something new in its place. Allowing that stuff of the past to actually be dissolved. When I realized what had happened, I realized I was the only one carrying it. And then I'm going to tell you something really funny that happened. And this I thought was super, super cool. One of my buddies, a very good friend of mine, sent me a message, just one message, saying, just remember, all we have is the moment we're in right now, Everything else is a memory. Even me saying this is now a memory. So as you go through your journey, my friend, realize this. It's just a memory. And you know, I haven't even thanked that person yet. I hope I will have by the time I've shot this video, but I sat and I cried. That was it. I just cried. Just head in hands and started to sob, because you know what? That was exactly what I needed to hear. It was like the universe had delivered that message to me through that good friend of mine. It was life-changing. One simple sentence was life-changing. So I went through all of these steps thinking I knew exactly what I needed to do to release them, and yet the universe took over. The universe gave me exactly what I needed, including an entirely new understanding about the world. When we want to go back, we can't. The past is over. It is over. When we carry these things, we give them power. We give them energy. If we zoom out and become the observer of ourself and our emotions and realize it is a memory, the moment's over. Where we are, we're safe. And we're loved. The rest is just a memory. It's pretty wild, right? It was a pretty wild ride for something I could have probably done sitting in my backyard. But I drove a total of about 400 miles and went to multiple places, all just to hear that one message. It's just a memory. It's already over. And it sounds so simple. But when you're truly reeling in your energy and in your emotions, the universe has this really funny, magical, and beautiful way of delivering to us exactly, and I mean exactly, what we need in the time. The key thing here, my friends, is to have the intention to become lighter in your life, to release the heavy energies, to always be moving forward and doing better within yourself. Because let's face it, you deserve it. You're an amazing, amazing human being with all kinds of love potential. The things that get in the way are just the things that have happened to us when we separate from them and we realize our soul is pure love. Everyone's soul is pure love. When we release the memories and look for the love, go back into the soul, find the love. The love I felt for the person who gave me that message, you can't even imagine. It actually seemed to overpower everything else that was happening. And the imprint I was left with was that the universe cared for me exactly as I needed it, when I needed it, and removed all the rest from the world. All the signs of it are gone from the world. I'm okay with that. I figure if the universe can let it go, so can I. So I stand before you today a much stronger, healthier human being. I feel proud of myself for facing my demons. You know what? We all have to do that sometimes. We have to face the uncomfortable things. But remember, life is about balance, and energy will search for balance. So when you face the hard thing, the natural thing is that you're going to receive that balance from the universe. You're going to receive the love of the universe. It might not be instantaneous, as it wasn't for me. I spent an entire day reeling, like really messed up in my own emotions going through this entire thing, not sure why this was happening. And I honestly felt like maybe the universe was against me for a minute. Why is this happening to me? Why did the world march forward against me? I realized, no. It was for me, just like it is for everyone else. When things move forward, that means there's more possibility for love. All right, guys. So thank you for being part of this journey with me. Thanks for sitting in this conversation with me. I appreciate it. All right, I'm going to cut this off right here. Until next time, please take care of yourself and each other.